automatically send.
Hello, Scott, are you there?
Hey, I'm here. How are we doing?
Hey, great. I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late. Brandon forgot to give me the 185 number, so I kept being muted as a attendee only. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Super strange here because I got you. Let's see. Yeah, because I had you. I didn't even see you pop in as an attendee. That's really strange. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Don't ask me, but he got it figured out.
Okay. Let me just text Tammy right here, just so she knows. And so you tried to join in from the link, and then it popped you in as attendee, right?
Yeah. So, well, the problem is you have to have that 185 number, and if you put anything other than 185 in pound, it puts you in as a muted attendee.
Oh, because you're calling in. You're not joining from the link. Okay. All right.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I have no idea how to solve that problem at the system moving forward.
It doesn't matter now where I'm on, so it's all good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man. Well, I'm stoked to have you here on the show, here today. And of course, I know there's a number of probably really interesting topics that we could get into. Do you have anything that's top of mind for you?
Well, Scott, to be honest with you, my day job is we own the 5th largest portfolio of mobile home parks in the U.S. And I do the educational stuff just as a hobby with my partner Dave's son in charge of that hobby. So I talk on stuff constantly. I don't know what topic you want to go over. I'm a million of them.
So let's talk about people that are well, actually, it'd probably be really neat. It'd probably be to share about is like what's the current state of people trying to get into mobile home parks. My understanding is that the market shares for that stuff have really dried up with like what their availability is as they become more popular. And we could either dispel that myth or confirm it. And
no, we can dispel that myth pretty easy. So yeah, we can definitely do that.
Cool. All right, let me just get this set real quick, and then we'll go ahead and we'll launch it just as like I do all these recordings that way in case we get we can turn it into like a podcast as well too. So I'll just get in here.
Okay, sounds fine.
Cool. All right. Hey guys, thanks for joining us here today. I'm Scott Royal Smith, the owner of Royal Legal Solutions. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Frank Rolfe. He has this website, the mobilehomeuniversity.com. Probably one of the foremost people with the largest portfolios inside of mobile home parks. If there's somebody that knows, it's going to be Frank. He just told me now that he loves to do this kind of is like these kind of shows is like a giving back to everybody. So it's one of the key pieces that I know that we've talked about time and time again, guys, that it's like as the more successful you get in life, the more it comes about how to give back to other people, but you don't have to wait to be able to give back. You can start giving back at whatever level you're at. You don't have to wait until you're multimillionaire to start giving your time, attention, money, or whatever it would be to other people. So thanks you, Frank, for coming on the show here today. I know we were going to talk a little bit about, what's the current state of mobile home park investing. But for everybody that doesn't know you and the great work you did, how long did it take you to grow to be, I think you said the 5th largest owner and 5th largest portfolio in mobile home parks?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Yeah, I started back in 1996 when I bought my first park. And about that same time, my partner, Dave Reynolds, bought his park. And that was also about the same time that Sam Zell bought his first park. So I guess many people started out at the same time. We've been growing the portfolio. I merged with Dave in 2010. And so we've been working on this now continuously for over 20 years. I guess we're approaching 25 years ultimately. Starting with just one park each, we now have the 5th largest portfolio in the U.S. So we own right now about over 200 parks. I think we're in about 24 states. Meanwhile, Sam Zell did far better than we did. He's the number 1 largest park owner in the U.S. He's got about 160,000 lots. Spread out over, I think, 300 or 400 parks, actually in fewer states than we are. But that's about how long we've been doing it. And we've been doing the educational side of it, just basically kind of an outreach for the industry for probably about a decade now. So my day job is the portfolio. My night job is I try and educate people on the industry.
Yeah, right on. What does that look like in terms of the industry itself right now? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of talk about, hey, there's just not that much inventory in mobile home parks right now to be able to move serious cash into for investors. Are you finding that to be the case for what you guys are doing? Like the amount of volume has actually dried up quite a bit?
No, let me tell you. Let me give you statistically why that would not be the case. Right now, there's about 44,000 mobile home parks in the U.S., and of the 44,000, only roughly 4,000 are owned by what we would call professional investors. So, less than 10% have been aggregated by real estate investors. The rest are all owned by the original moms and pops or the heirs of those moms and pops. So to say that our industry is wildly picked over would be completely incorrect. People may influence people's thinking on it is, mobile home park mom and pops are a fickle crowd. They're not very technologically savvy. They never really have participated in the internet or really real estate in general. So in our industry, you kind of have to go out and find the moms and pops, which we do through direct mail, cold calling, and then we do get a lot of work from brokers, but that's under what are called pocket listings, because a lot of moms and pops, when they go to sell, they don't want to publicly advertise it because it would make their residents and managers mad. So what they do is they go to a broker and say, I'll sell my park at this price, but you cannot advertise it for sale. You can only tell it to somebody if you think that they might have the money and the desire to do it. So our entire industry kind of flies somewhat under the radar screen. Now, that being said, if you go to mobilehomeparkstore.com, there's typically 800 to 2,000 mobile home parks for sale online through Mobile Home Park Store. Only a fraction of that is on LoopNet, because LoopNet, for some reason, does not seem to want to cater to or work with mobile home park owners. They don't even have a mobile home park section. But if you go to Mobile Home Park Store, you'll get a clear idea of what's available online. But even then, if you tack on that roughly 1,000 parks that's there, it still leaves 90% of the parks just laying out there in the hands of the original founders or their kids.
So you're talking about like marketing to those people in probably the same type of way that you would have to market to like people that are like distressed home buyers or something like that, right? Where it's like going to be.
Yeah, although right. I mean, it's even maybe more difficult because I don't market to distressed home buyers, but I see billboards that say like, we buy ugly houses, home investors, things like that. The mobile home park people would not even respond to that probably, nor could you really run a successful billboard campaign saying we buy ugly mobile parks. Because there's, I don't know what response you would get, but most of your park owners, they all fit the same model. They build them from scratch. They have no debt, but they're very private people, because a lot of them, one of the big mistakes they made is they became way, way too friendly with the residents over the years or the manager. And so they are so worried about appearances that when they go to sell, they want to sell in a manner in which no one knows they actually were trying to sell. So it's kind of a weird deal.
Well, it's probably weird for them, right? Because it's like they're breaking relationships, right?
That's exactly correct, right? I mean, most mobile home park owners are kind of like, the Mertzes on the I Love Lucy show. They somehow confuse the actual capitalism of owning property with, their own brand of socialism as far as trying to keep rents low, or they're just very needy for friendship. So they cross the line with the residents on a regular basis, and therefore it makes it really hard for them to then sell, because people would consider them no longer their friends.
Yeah. But when you come into I think probably one of the main concerns that people would have is their volume. And we've just dispelled that myth to say, actually, there's tons of volume. You just have to know the right way to go out there and go and get it, which is going to be direct mail and cold calling. Or making relationships with brokers
and broker pocket listings. Those are the three big ones.
Your broker pocket listings, that's like another marketing campaign though, right? To find out like who the heck are all the brokers that are ones that are people would reach out to.
Yeah, that's easy. That's kind of easy to do, because if you go to mobilehomeparkstore.com, you'll see there's a tab there called brokers, and that gives you a complete list of all the brokers in the U.S. who do mobile home parks. Which cool. There are probably there's about 100 dedicated mobile home park brokers out there.
Okay. And are those deals typically crafted like how you would typically think like a wholesale deal would be? Like that the broker is the one that's going to be negotiating the pricing with the seller, then they make a certain spread, and then they kick it over to you and say, hey, this is what the price is going to be, and this is your cap rate, et cetera.
No, there's really no spread with the broker. What the broker does is the broker gets a set commission. The industry norm runs anywhere from probably 2 to 3%, all the way up as much as 10% on really small deals. So there's no arbitrage in the broker. The broker is just trying to sell the asset and get a commission from it. So, and one more thing I want to throw out, Scott, here up front end is, our industry has a gigantic, what I would call stigma wall of obstruction that keeps most people from even considering buying mobile home parks. Because, in all other forms of real estate, it's considered glamorous, fun, you can be proud, and that's not how it works in mobile home parks. So basically, whereas there's a million people out there wanting to flip houses and all that cool stuff you see on HGTV, like Flip or Flop and whatever, trailer parks are, by most Americans, found to be scary, gross, unfulfilling. So for that reason, there's only a fraction of the investors in mobile home parks that there are in almost every other sector.
Yeah, well, it makes it attractive, right? It's like lower investor demand, but also give you a good idea that assets are being mismanaged, right? Which means you can turn a couple of things around without actually having to invest any money. You just have to run it better.
Right. But see, in other words, it's like mobile home parks are considered by many people slightly lower than being a septic tank cleaner. So that's why when someone says, "Oh yeah, you must be massively picked over," I don't think that would ever occur, because most people have no interest in what we do at all.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably true, and I think probably a lot of people are actually just scared to try to deal with like a different kind of people. You know what I mean? Well,
yeah, you're right. What's scary? What's really crazy is that the stereotype the media has built about our industry is so insanely off base, yet people eat it up all day long, right?
Yeah.
So everyone thinks in America that people who live in mobile home parks are just the scum of the earth. They're all a bunch of misfits and outlaws and crazy people. And the truth of the matter is 8% of the entire U.S. population lives in mobile homes. And it ranges all the way from billionaires. There's 5 billionaires that live in a mobile home park up in Montauk in the Hamptons. It's not their full-time residence, but it is listed in one of their residences. Down to a huge number of wealthy retirees in parks in California and Florida. And then on down to, your average mobile home park resident in the U.S. is probably earning maybe 30 to 50 grand a year. So they're massively stereotyped by the media, which has found that by simply putting the word trailer park in any title of any episode, you get massive viewership, because the average American thinks that anything with the word trailer park in it, the women are all strippers and hookers, and the men are all tattooed hillbillies that beat each other up at the drop of a hat. And that's the portrayal they've tried to use through the show Cops, Myrtle Manor, Trailer Park Boys. The movie 8 Mile with Eminem is endless. I'll also tell you this. I went out to 8 Miles the mobile home park Eminem grew up in, that you've seen in the movie 8 Mile, right? Well, he actually grew up in a senior retirement park, which I have photographs of. So his rowdy neighbors would have been, a 65-year-old woman, has a little community center and pool. So basically, he himself was using that stereotype to bolster his kind of rapper, gritty edge. But the industry gets absolutely, like, Rodney Dangerfield, no respect whatsoever, but it's completely not based on fact.
Yeah, well, that actually sounds like pretty exciting, right? Because that means that's actually like misinformation that says that there would be like an opportunity to exploit.
That's right. That's what that's what we like about it. It's just most people who don't know the industry have absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
How hard is it to jump into like a mobile home park if, say, you're getting like started on? Is that like easy enough to just say, hey, I'll get a script, hire a VA, and have them start making phone calls to see who's interested in selling? Or what's like the minimum threshold?
We get, let me give you a breakdown statistically. We get over 50% of all the parks that we have bought from broker pocket listings. So if you're going to spend any time at all, the first thing you want to do is you'd want to go to the brokers and give them your elevator speech on who you are and what you're trying to accomplish and how much capital you have for down payment and the kind of park you're trying to buy and geography. That would be anyone's first stop, because that is where over 50% of all of our deals came from. Of the balance of the other 50%, it came from either cold calling or direct mail. Between the two, direct mail is obviously easier as far as the volume you could do, because I can direct mail the entire world in the same amount of time I make one phone call. But direct mail, of course, is not free. Cold calling is free. And then also when you cold call, you often forge a bond with the customer or the seller on one call. So you can often get farther with it, but that's kind of the breakdown. You really want to start with brokers, and then from brokers go to cold calling and direct mail.
So that with the brokers that you have, like you have the 1,000 that are listed there on the site, and that's the mobile home. What is that again? It's mobile home what?
Mobilehomeparkstore.com.
Parkstore.com. So really, like, you're suggesting saying, hey, it's really as simple as, maybe going to Mobile Home University, checking out, educating yourself on like, what is this about? And then we already have all of the resources pulled together for you guys about, how to make the relationships. And then it's just up to each individual to figure out like, okay, what's your elevator pitch going to be, talking to those brokers, figuring out how to position yourself to make you an attractive buyer to those brokers.
Yep, that's pretty much it. You basically just jump in the swimming pool, and then you figure it out as you go. That's kind of how it works. You can't. It is such the Wild West. I mean, it is the Fort, the Dodge City, Kansas of real estate that, people end up buying parks in ways they never even anticipated when they first started looking at them. So you just kind of have to jump in there and see what happens.
Cool. And what does that typically look like? What's not necessarily absolutely, came down from heaven profile for a buyer for the brokers to connect with, but what makes like a good candidate for the broker to be like, hey, that's somebody I definitely want to have inside of my investor pool?
Okay, well, when you're dealing in pocket listings, what the broker is trying to hear is the concept that you actually will pull the trigger, because pocket listings and tire kicking don't work at all. Because every time you give a listing to somebody in a pocket listing, the problem is if they go over and talk to the owner, or they talk to any of the residents, or do anything stupid, it blows your whole listing. So they don't want to deal with people who are not sincerely enthusiastic to buy it and have capital. So what you'd want to do in your broker pitch is you'd want to tell them geographically what you're looking for, dollar-wise what you're looking for, how much you have for a down, what you will and will not buy, the stuff that would actually tell them, oh yeah, this person actually would buy something. So in other words, if I say to the broker, I've got a couple $100,000, I don't mind buying a really rough turnaround park, has to be stuff though that doesn't cost a lot of capital to fix up. I want to be in the Midwest, that now the guy matches that against what he has in his pocket listings and sees if any of that merchandise works. If you just say, hey, I want to buy a mobile home park, that means nothing, right? Or if you say, I want to buy a mobile home park with good cash flow, it means nothing. So they want to hear, they want to hear actual stuff. I mean, it's so different than if they were like a Match.com website. I mean, you can't just say, I want a date. It has to be, I want a date, and here's all the material about me. This is what I'm trying to find in the dating pool, something like that. That's all they ask. They just want the actual factual stuff.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And every good broker should be asking that kind of information to make sure that they don't waste your time as a buyer as well, right? Floating you a bunch of stuff right into it. So it works. It's a double leverage point under there, right?
Yep.
In terms of, I know a lot of people looking to get into like mobile homes or any new asset class, like the number one thing that I hear time and time again is people are worried about swimming too far outside their lane for what they know, like made of money in the past. And one of the things that I hear time and time again that we talk about too sometimes, I'm not sure if you would agree with, is one, we usually talk about, find somebody that's done these deals before that you can, get a quasi mentorship with to share with you the information. Sure. And then two is to partner with other people that have done deals. So you can actually, protect yourself by not having as much yield in the first deals that you would do, but by putting up the capital, it gets you involved in all of the nuts and bolts of actually working with somebody hand in hand to actually do one of the deals. Is that something that you would advocate as well with people looking to get into mobile home parks?
Let me tell you, one of the misunderstandings on mobile home parks is it's really not that different than most all the other forms of real estate. There's one big problem though that throws off a lot of investors. It causes more people to overpay than anything else. And that is a lot of people do not understand that mobile home parks have a separation between real property and personal property. Whereas all other forms of real estate is all real property. So for example, if you have an apartment building and I rent the apartment for $900 a month, that $900 a month is where you derive your net income, your cap rate, and everything. In a mobile home park, if I've got a park on home and you pay me $900 a month and I have a $300 lot rent, only $300 of the $900 is actually usable. The rest of the money goes against what's called personal property, which is not actually valued. So that's what kills most people, is that one single item. So let me explain again how that works in further depth. Let's say you have a 1970s mobile home in your mobile home park that's owned by the park and is a rental. If you rent that 1970s home for $600 a month and the underlying lot rent in the park is $300 a month, then you have $300 of personal property income, and you can't cap that. So in other words, what a lot of moms and pops will do is they would convince you, oh no, that's $300 of income, just like an apartment. So let's put a 10 cap on that. And let's say that then values that mobile home at $36,000. But of course, the mobile home is actually only worth $2,000. That's what kills more people than anything else, is that when we buy the mobile home park, we separate out personal property and real property income. We only value real property, as the banks do. We only buy based on real property. We don't buy any personal property at all. And it's a very foreign idea because we're the only form of real estate like that, because we're effectively a parking lot. So you can't value the value of the cars in the parking lot. When Park and Fly sells their parking lot out at the airport, they can't value the cars into the equation.
Yeah, because they're not an asset, right? They're like inventory.
That's correct.
Right?
Right. They're just personal property. There's junk. In other words, they're something derived on wheels. It's titled as a vehicle through most states, and you cannot make that into real estate. It's personal property. So the only real property in a park is the lot rent. Sometimes we have apartments, sometimes self-storages, sometimes single-family home. That's all real property. But the mobile homes themselves are never real property. The only way you can make them real property is if you permanently affix them to the land and surrender the title. And none in a mobile home park in American history have ever done that. So the people coming into this, they don't understand that super important item. I'll get calls from people who I don't know who find my number on the internet and call up because they're in all kinds of trouble on their park, and it's always the same issue. They valued these old, crappy up mobile homes on a cap rate as real property, and they're strictly not real property. And the number one killer is when they do seller financing, which is very prevalent in the industry. And then when the balloon comes up 5 or 10 years later, and they go to try and finance it, and then the bank, which is much more sophisticated, says, okay, well, yeah, but you can't use the mobile home income, right? And so that's probably the one item that kills people more than anything else.
That's because they have everything rolled into one, huh? So are people in that circumstance too are trying to then like lever the real estate itself and then do something different to be able to lever the personal property, or is it a lot higher rates, or what do people do in that situation?
You just don't you just can't value the home income. In other words, you take a piece of paper, you put all the real property on the left-hand side of the column, which is lot rent, apartment, self-storage, single family, and on the right-hand side you have personal property, which are mobile homes, riding mower, vending machine, whatever. We don't put any value on any money that's applied to the personal property whatsoever. We only put money on the real property. It's not our rule. It's the whole entire rule of lending. It's all the appraisers, banks, nobody values the mobile homes as anything more than just personal property at the blue book value, whatever that personal property is worth. So
gotcha.
1980s, it's worth maybe $5,000.
You could get financing on it. You're just not going to get financing on it as like a piece of real estate. You're going to get like as like a car loan, right? When you'd get financing on a car loan,
exactly.
but it's going to be crap financing. Right.
Yeah, exactly correct. See, the problem with the mobile homes, I don't know if you've been in one or not, but mobile homes are, very, very delicately constructed. I mean, they're by HUD designed to be the least expensive form of housing. So, they don't wear well as rentals. And everyone in the industry has learned that over the years. So basically, all you try and do with a mobile home is sell it to get the lot rent, because the lot rent is actually a real property income, and that's valuable. But the home isn't worth anything. And yet, moms and pops, when they go to sell their parks, they try and pretend to the unknowing buyer that the homes are wildly valuable, when in fact they're not. And so if you put a lot of money towards the homes, you're screwed.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, you would be, right? Because then now you're going to be doubling up your value of whatever you think your lots are going to be worth, right? Or more,
That's
probably.
correct. Yep.
So you're just going to be looking at like when you're looking at trying to buy something from a mom and pop, then you're going to be scrutinizing their P&Ls pretty closely to be able to see how they're differentiating out like what the lot rents are versus the personal property rents. Because I bet a lot of times they don't break those out for you, right?
Yeah, we actually in the mobile home park business, we have to rebuild from scratch all P&Ls. We don't even pay any regard to the seller's P&L. The only thing of the seller's P&L is most banks are going to want to see the seller's P&L. So you can't get away from it. It's there. But if you went by the seller's P&L, you would go broke every time because they never have any of the right items in the budget, nor do they have the right amounts in any of the items. So you have to start from scratch. You call the water company, the power company, the trash company. You get 3 bids on anything you can't get from a third party. You never trust mom and pop's numbers.
Is Frank, is that the way that you guys break out those numbers and your checklist for that? Are those all things that you have at mobilehomeuniversity.com to be able to say like here's all like the laundry list of stuff?
We do. Yeah. We have all the information on all the correct all the correct line items and everything else.
Okay, very cool. So what is y'all's vision with what you're doing with the mobile home? I know that you don't have a need to be able to come on shows like this to get your name out. Obviously, you have a really robust and you do this as part of your giving back. What's the mission here? Is the mission here to try to take all the information that you guys have accumulated over the last 20 plus years and be able to distill it into a way that to get more people interested in asset class that's been really good for you guys?
Well,
or what are you guys trying to get to?
Yeah, our main goal from the beginning was just to dispel all the myths and legends on the industry, because we thought that if we educated people on the industry, eventually it might become more of a mainstay industry. So, when we got in the industry back in the 90s, it was an absolute wasteland. There was not a single book on the industry. There was no conversation on the industry. Nobody cared about it at all. And our thoughts have been that if we can, over time, educate people on the actual industry, it would become more like apartments. And so if it became more like apartments, obviously we would benefit hugely. It would make cap rates go down and bank financing ever easier, and people would like us better, and residents would feel more comfortable living in them. So it's basically just been trying to help re-educate America on the truth about mobile home parks more than anything else. And so that's really been the goal. And so every time I talk about it, hopefully in some way I convince somebody to take a better look at it and figure out what's going on. And we've had some huge successes. Like, we'd had a huge article in the New York Times back in 2014. They actually came and lived in one of our parks for a week at our invitation. They absolutely loved the mobile home park model, wrote this giant glowing article on the industry. But, we've tried to participate with, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, National Geographic followed me for a day, things like that. We're trying to bring out the truth about the industry.
Very cool, Frank. And how's that been, going? It sounds like there's more interest and that you've done a really good job at connecting with people that are, the influencers, like National Geographic and whatnot, and sharing the info. Have you seen there be much of a change in the tide, so to speak, or are you still waiting for that big move?
No, we're nowhere near any change in the tide. The New York Times article is very nice. That was the first positive article the industry had ever had. But nevertheless, did it change anything? No. I mean, you still have, every person who knows nothing. I mean, there's a big article on our show on HBO with John Oliver where he trashed, me and the mobile home park industry and everything. The problem is that the stereotype is run so deep in American culture. It's taken decades to build. It would take decades to unbuild. The only thing that's odd is that the media loved industry back in the 60s. They had Elvis living in a mobile home park in 2 different movies. Elvis himself lived in a mobile home park as a weekend getaway about 10 miles away from Graceland. You had the I Love Lucy stars, Lucy and Ricky, living in a mobile home in a feature-length movie called The Long, Long Trailer. So America loved mobile homes in the 50s, 60s. In fact, the demographics of mobile home parks were higher in the 50s than single stick-built homes. But sometime in the 70s, people realized they could sell more tickets by portraying the industry as this crazy, sexy, violent thing. And they just run rampant with it. And it's just filtered into all forms of American culture. And nobody puts the effort in to ever understand what's really going on. I mean, that's what the New York Times article, when they approached us to do an article on the industry, it was done by the guy who was writing a book about payday lending. And he thought mobile home parks were the same thing as payday lending, where it was all just nasty junk, ripping off the poor. And so we let him live in one of our parks, and it totally changed his tune, because he had in fact never actually been in a mobile home park. He was from Manhattan, lived in a co-op. And yeah, it's going to take decades to undo all the damage the media has done at this point. Wow. So we have no delusions that the industry will be considered respectable or mainstream anytime in the near future, but maybe a little bit more each day.
Well, it sounds really interesting. I mean, it sounds like something that I'd be interested in doing if I could find somebody that like would be experienced. I haven't ever bought into mobile home parks, but from what you're describing, it does definitely sounds like an opportunity that I would typically like. Is there a good way to say, like, if I wanted to say partner with somebody and put up like 50 or 100,000 into somebody else's deal to go with that? Is that coordinated through something from Mobile Home University, something you guys do privately? Like, what's the best way to do something like that?
Well, I mean, we do a thing through MHU on a regular basis called the boot camp, which is where we have a bunch of people, some are park owners, some are owners, get together, and we review the industry for 3 solid days. And there's networking that some people post, networking requests on MHU.com's forum section. So some people will post on the forum saying, hey, I'm looking for a partner, things like that. There's a lot of activity on that. That's really about it. I mean, you rarely meet anyone in your regular life who is involved in the mobile home park industry, because there's so few people doing it, right? I mean, we're a nation of 300 million people, and there's only 44,000 total parks. There won't ever be any more parks because they stopped construction in the 70s. So basically, we're talking right now, there's, basically 4,000 people in the industry who are not moms and pops out of 300 million people. So it's really, really low shot. Like, I've never run into anyone in my entire life ever at any school event, social function, or anything that's ever owned a mobile home park. So you kind of can't get any network getting going unless you go to the greater online community, because there's just not enough people in it so you'd ever run into it.
And so you have it through the MHU, then you guys are doing like some collective meetups. Are you guys doing them online, or are you doing them in person? How does that typically work?
Oh, no. All the events we do live. Okay. I mean, we've written books and things on the industry. We have a ton of information on MHU, different recordings and stuff. But the one thing we found over the years that people liked is they liked the normalcy and respectability of an actual face-to-face event. So that's why we do those. But there's lots of information out there. If you don't like people or events and things, there's all kinds of stuff on MHU that you can go through it's completely free, and it's just all there you can read or listen to.
Yeah, no, I mean, personally, my inclination is anytime I'm going into something new is that I got to go meet the people face to face. Of like, one, I got to study all the material. And then the second is I got to go face to face and meet the people. Like, we've been doing a lot of work with like offshore asset protection trusts, which I don't know if you're really experienced in those pieces, but it's like, how do you take assets, have them structured and structures in a certain way that says, like, if you get into any serious major trouble, of like how to move those assets quickly offshore into offshore banks, et cetera. And one of the key criteria I had with that is that actually going down to St. Kitts Nevis to meet the Swiss bankers and meet all of the people that actually, and the attorneys and the people that run these offshore pieces, because you can see stuff online all day long, right? And you can read as much as you want to, but when it gets down into the nitty gritty of like, who do you actually need to call? Like, what does that actual relationship look like? I think is really powerful for people. And I think in an internet era, it's the best way I've ever found to be able to get the information to get up to the is online. But before they pull the trigger, just getting that face-to-face to pick up the nuances, have the relationship so you can make the phone calls that you need to when things pop up are value. You just can't get those online. I mean, people have coaching classes and stuff.
I agree with you.
you know?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So that's super cool. Do you guys have your next event dates lined up yet, or is there like a good place that people should
Yeah,
go
our
to find
next,
out about?
actually, our next, let me look at my date time. Our next event is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, July 12th through 14th.
So July 12th through 14th in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we always do them as a 3-day immersion weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Pittsburgh. Well, we spend 2 days in the classroom and 1 day out in the field inside parks evaluating them.
Oh, very cool. All right. I just threw that into the comments there too for our Facebook Live. So we have that piece in there as well too. Sure. I might be joining you guys here on here in July. This sounds like super cool.
We'd love to have you. I mean, you'll find our class is always a very interesting collection of people. We have about half the class already own mobile home parks, and they only go there to look for that, 1 or 2 big ideas to improve their operations. The other half are people looking to buy in mobile home parks. So actually, you get a lot of information from the class because you're sitting with people who already own parks. So people learn in the class, they learn networking outside of the class, they learn at lunch and dinner all the truth about how the industry works.
It's freaking great, Frank. Thanks for doing the great work you're doing on dispelling the myths. And I know that that's like a juggernaut of an endeavor to try to do. I'm trying to do the same thing in the asset protection as well as just generally in the legal space, where so much of my industry is clouded with all kinds of assumptions and misinformation and all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
Like that too. So
yep.
I feel your pain, brother, on trying to fight the good fight of helping people with the info.
Yep. Well, I appreciate that. As I say, we're more. No one likes talking mobile home parks more than we do. So
I love it, man.
I'm glad you let me on here.
Yeah. Well, I'm had a great conversation with you today, Frank. I appreciate you taking the time to come on here. We have everything up here onto the Royal Legal Solutions Facebook Live page. We'll be pushing this to our podcast as well too. So we'll have everything here in the links for the Mobile Home University. .com is a link that we have up. I put on there that the next live event is going on July 12th to the 14th in Pennsylvania, and for everybody to contact you through mobilehomeuniversity.com. Is there a different way that you'd like people to contact you as well?
No, that's really the best way is just if you just go on the mhu.com website, you'll see it all there. It's very easy to navigate it, and all of our contact information is right on there.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you, Frank. Thanks, brother. I look forward to hanging out with you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.